community, and welcome back to the second video in the Typescript short series where we'll be talking about unknown. So what you need to know about unknown fundamentally is that it is a type-safe counterpart to any, and that it is not assignable to anything but itself and any without a type assertion or a control flow based narrowing. And this is really the whole point of unknown, is it allows you to provide a placeholder value for a type of data, the shape of which you do not know yet, but you will need to constrain to a certain type and check whether that type is actually present in the data that you are receiving. So it's very popular of a type placeholder to use when you're working with JSON data of unknown shape. This is why I have provided this mock JSON object in advance, and we will be writing a function to pass only the values from this object, from this JSON object, which are objects themselves. So the function should return only address and languages. Let's get right to it. So say function pass JSON. Pass JSON takes a JSON string as an argument of type string, of course, and returns unknown. We do not know the shape of the data yet. We will declare a variable of type unknown, and we will work with try catch logic in here because we want to try whether the data can be passed and throw an error if it is an invalid JSON string that we are receiving. So passed will take on the value of JSON.pass with JSON string as an argument. And within the catch statement, we will simply throw a new error and say invalid JSON string. Okay. Now our branching flow starts, and since we'll be checking for an object, we will see if passed deeply equals object, and if passed is not null. However, this is not sufficient because with this check in place, pass deeply equals object, the array would pass the test as well, because arrays are objects under the hood in JavaScript. So we have to be rather specific here and work with a few methods of the object constructor. Object.prototype.toString .call, and we provide passed, which should all deeply equal the following array, which contains a string, which I am certain you've already seen at one point or another of your developer career or learning journey. Object, it sometimes happens that we see this string in the user interface when we have forgotten something in our logic or we are accessing the data improperly. Alright, so let's move on. If this check succeeds, what do we want to do? Well, we are going to declare a constant object entries through which we are simply accessing the entries of the object, right? So here we can define a type string because we know that the property is going to be a string, and then we are going to say unknown because we are checking, right, what value will follow. And of course it will also be a string of property value pairs, of key value pairs. Okay, so object dot entries will be the value of this constant, and past will be the entries that we observe. Then we will filter, we can say filtered entries, that is fine, and it will be string unknown again because we are filtering from object entries here. So this will be object entries dot filter. We will call this an entry, seems logical, and check type of entry where we are accessing index 1, so not index 0, not the property, not the key. We are accessing the value here. We are checking what value we have in our entries. So this is pretty much going to be the same as above, so equals object and entry at index 1 not equals null, and of course we're not checking here whether it's an object, but we are checking whether it is not an array. I mean, we could check whether it is an object, but since we are really dealing with a collection of data where we know it's either going to be an array or an object, because the rest is already filtered out from the check that we have in place, we could really just flip it and say, look, check if this is not an array. We can do this, and this is really just an example of how to write the branching code when you're using unknown. You can adjust it to your needs, of course. Okay, so array is array in entry at index position 1. So this makes sense so far. Good. Now we are going to declare a constant, and we are going to call it filtered object. Filtered object is going to have a bit more of a complex type. It's going to be a record. You can look it up, or I can do a video on record as well. The point being, with record, it constructs a type with a set of properties k of type t, and here we're basically saying we are creating a new object where the key is going to be a string and the value is going to be unknown. So it's really, again, the same logic that we already have in place in the previous lines of code. Okay, it's going to be an empty object, of course, because we need to populate it, and then we're going to access filtered entries and do a for each, simply and have entry again as the iterator, and here we will say filtered object, which will be accessed at entry position 0 this time around, equals entry at position 1, right? And here outside of this we're gonna return the filtered object. Okay, and just so it doesn't get too befuddling for you guys, so the reason we are doing this with filtered object in this way here, particularly in the for each, is we are saying, you know, the method is called on the filter entries array, which is an array of string and unknown tuples, right, representing the key value pairs that we pass through the filter condition. So for each entry in the filtered entries array, the code sets the key in filtered object to the first element of the entry, that being the string key, using the square bracket notation in here, and then sets the value to the second element of the entry, right? So here we're really just assigning the string value pairs in this new object, right? This is what we're doing, and this is why we are returning it at the end of it. Finally, we have to return past, which has now undergone all these conditional checks. And to actually have something to show in the console, we can say past data pass JSON, which we provide with json.stringify and JSON data, and we just console log the whole thing past data, right? And if all of this is working, we should expect to see address and languages objects to be logged. So let's see if it works. And it does indeed. So yeah, this is pretty much a way to deal with this. You can pass the incoming JSON data according to your constraints, and this is really one of the main ways to use unknown and to constrain type of unknown shape within the required logic. Alright, so I hope this was helpful to you. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and of course we will see each other in the next installment of this series. Hope you have a great day. Bye bye.